Okay, so last time we did this, you gave me some pretty spicy cards, and we failed miserably. It was not a good time. I recently guessed Shadowverse. Maybe that will actually help me. I seriously doubt it, but
As far as I'm aware, YuGiOh and Shadowverse is like trying to compare a pair with like a submachine gun, so...
you're probably not wrong. But I mean, I'll just coat my way through it like last time and really
We'll
give
be
it my all.
fine.
That's what you said last time. It's all coming back to me. The PTSD is here.
First card, we're gonna start off slow.
Mirror Force. The trap card. When an opponent monster declares an attack, destroy all your opponent's attack position monsters. So this is a pretty spicy trap card. I think from doing this so often now, I am starting to learn that there's a lot of ways to counter your opponent's stuff. So there's probably a way to just negate this entirely. But this is a really interesting card. Now, the problem with this card is that if your opponent only has one minion or monster and you play this, it's absolutely garbage because you're just basically trading 1-for-1. And I don't think that's actually good enough unless the minion is insane. In Hearthstone, would this card see play? This is almost like, I guess, explosive trap-esque, depending on how much damage it does. I mean, it's probably fine. It's probably like an average card. I wouldn't call it great or I wouldn't call it bad.
This card is pretty bad by modern standards, unfortunately.
By modern standards. It was good at a time, though.
Yeah, 25 years ago, this card was absolutely nuts. Yeah, this card is super old. Unfortunately, it's just very outdated.
So there's just better removal.
Yeah, like battle tricks aren't really that good anymore. They're kind of like very easy to like play around. Some monsters or decks just don't even care. It's a very easy card to just like play around, and 99% of the time, like most decks just are like, oh, okay, no, like I don't really even mind.
And I would also probably imagine that because this is a trap card, it's rather slow, and there's probably just a spell card that does the exact same thing, just better, or something close to it.
There's like 50 spell and monsters that just like do this card's job, but like 10 times better.
All right, well, already starting off to a really good start. Really excited.
Next card.
Cross out Designator. Declare one card name, banish one of that declared card from your main deck, and if you do, negate its effects as well as the activated effects and effects on the field of cards with the same original name until the end of this turn. You can only activate one of this card per turn. Interesting. So you're banishing a card from your main deck, but I would imagine that you're going to name a card that your opponent probably has in their deck as well. Because why would you want this? I mean, banishing doesn't send a card to a graveyard, right?
No, it sort of sends it to a separate pile that you're usually never going to touch again.
Usually.
In most scenarios.
So you're saying that there are decks that you could use banish cards quite well.
This is not a card that you want to particularly use as a part of a combo. I'll just give you that as a hint.
This is really weird. Let me do the Hearthstone thing again. So when I put a card in my deck that I could just banish a card for a turn, it would be so bad because there's classes in Hearthstone, but there's not classes in Yu-Gi-Oh, which means any card can be used in a deck, I'm guessing. I don't know. I feel like this is so bad. Like, I don't know why you would want this effect, but at the same time, I feel like if you just declare a really, or just a powerful card that you don't mind banishing for a turn, because you're not going to be using that effect, your opponent is. Wait a minute. This is actually broken. This is a really good card because you don't care if usually on your turn, you just care about your opponent's turn. So this is insane. This is a good card.
You're like halfway there. This card is like the definition of a tech card.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, so the idea that people sort of have with this card is if you're going first and there's a very powerful card that sort of like shuts your deck down, like a hand trap or something along that line, and like they use that on you, you could use Designator to sort of make sure that their hand trap sort of gets negated. If you're playing like a mirror match, you could banish something of your own in order to sort of stop your opponent. This card was about $150 for about 2 weeks in the TCG.
What? Why?
Because Yu-Gi-Oh players are something else. They see cards that says negate and they're like, oh my god, my combo is gonna be insane. It's gonna be the near tier 0 format, baby.
So because a card is stronger, it's worth more money. Is that the reason why then?
Yeah,
that's
basically.
Really
Yeah, basically. Welcome to capitalism.
Interesting. Yeah, you're right. This is a tech card, right? So in some situations it's really, really good, but other situations it's probably just gonna be whatever.
Yeah, most of the time this card just doesn't have enough impact, or it's just way too situational, and there's not really like an overarching card within the metagame that every single deck sort of has to play around.
You could say at a time, though, this was a very good card.
In very specific formats, it's been very good, yes. Got another card for you. If you need me to break this one down, just let me know.
Zodiac Trident, something along those lines. Once per turn, you can also XYZ summon. What is XYZ summon?
So in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have a pile of cards called the extra deck, and you have 15 of them, and you sort of always have access to these cards as long as you fulfill their summoning requirement. So the first line of text for level 4 monsters, if you have 4 of those, you can stack them all up together in order to make your Zodiac Trident.
Gains attack/defense equal to the attack/defense of all Zodiac monsters attached to it as material. Once per turn, it's a quick effect. You can detach one material from this card, then target one face-up card on the field, destroy it. So it basically lose stats to kill a card.
Essentially, yes.
Does the card go back after? Or is it like...
Yeah, it just immediately goes to the graveyard.
That seems really good. Again, I don't know how stats don't seem to be very relevant in Yu-Gi-Oh, so I would imagine that this is pretty good. I mean, how would this be bad? I guess the real big thing is how hard is this to actually summon? It doesn't feel like it's very hard to summon. See, I'm getting the flashbacks of how hard this is to judge cards in this game, dude. In Hearthstone, if I could stack 4 monsters up, get rid of one, lose stats, but kill a card from my opponent. Most of the time, you're gonna, like, I know you can target anything, but you're gonna always do it with your opponent most of the time. This would be a pretty decent card depending on the mana cost, because the effect is obviously great, and Yu-Gi-Oh effects are absolutely insane. So I would imagine that this card is good depending on how hard it is to actually summon. But I could also just see the case of this being absolutely useless because it's too hard to summon. In my opinion, like, the effect is obviously great, so it really depends on how easy this is to summon.
This card is arguably one of the best Xyz monsters ever printed.
I mean, I was kind of right.
You were pretty on the money, I guess, like halfway there.
Okay, so it's easy to summon, I would imagine, then, right? Because obviously the effect is the effect is insane. So especially in a game like Yu-Gi-Oh, like you've been saying for a while, like being able to just destroy your opponent's cards just seems like it's broken.
Yeah, just having any form of like quick removal is absolutely insane. And when you look at Trident and like the second line of text where you can also just summon it using one Zodiac monster you control, like you don't even need to go through the hoops of summoning 4. You could just use straight up one main deck Zodiac, because there's an entire archetype of like main deck Zodiacs that are like pretty low impact, but you could just stack. You could just give Trident like a bunch of materials, and you could just continually just like machine gun kill your opponent's board. And turns out having a 1-card pop over the course of multiple turns is pretty broken. So this card was brought back for like 1 format and then immediately banned afterwards because they realized
it's banned. Okay. Something I didn't ask actually. So you can add cards to this even when it's summoned, I'm guessing, right? Is that how that works as well, or no? Because in order to use the quick effect, you have to detach one material from the card. Can you add stuff to this when it's already summoned?
Usually no, but in the Zodiac archetype specific case, there are a lot of ways to continually give Trident more and more materials. So that just makes it even more busted.
Okay. Yeah. All right. Seems pretty good.
Next card.
What the hell are these names? What is this? Dogmatica? What is... Okay. Dogmatica Punishment. This is another trap card. Target one face-up monster your opponent controls. Send one monster with an equal or higher attack from your extra deck to the graveyard. And if you do, destroy that monster. You destroy the monster you're targeting, I'm guessing, right? Based on this wording?
Yes.
Okay. Until the end of your next turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck. You can only activate one of this card per turn. I've learned last time that the graveyard is a very powerful thing in Yu-Gi-Oh! So I have to remember that. This is not a horrible card because most of the time it feels like you can go 1-to-1. But again, I feel like this is slow. Like I feel like there's just better effects to actually deal with one of your opponent's monsters, I guess. See, trap cards are hard because the fact that your opponent kind of has to engage with it is usually the part that I'm not sure if how relevant that actually is in a game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Because in Hearthstone, obviously you're going to have to attack your opponent's face at some point unless you're just killing them from hand, but this may never actually be useful. You gotta stop giving me trap cards, dude. They're impossible. I think this is good. Like I think the idea of this card is pretty great. You're getting 2 benefits from this card, I would imagine, most of the time. Like, and you're probably gonna put this into a deck where you want to use your graveyard, so probably good. I would imagine for a trap card, this is probably played. It seems like you can actually see like 2 for 1-ing seems pretty great. So sorry, what I mean is like 2 positive effects for just basically using this card seems pretty good.
Yeah, you're right on the money. This card is one of the more playable trap cards to come out as of late.
Thank God, I was so close to saying it's trash.
Yeah, it just turns out pop card, send card from extra deck to graveyard. It's pretty good.
Yeah, so that like one sentence right there is just the reason to play this, I would imagine. Just because there's obviously going to be other cards in the game that destroys your opponent's monsters, but like the fact you get to move a minion or a monster from your extra deck to your graveyard just makes it that much better.
Next card.
Okay, again, another super weird name. What is this? El Shadal Winda? Let's go with that. So this is a fusion monster. Must first be fusion summoned. Cannot be destroyed by an opponent's card effects. Each player can only special summon monsters once per turn while this card is face up on the field. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can target one Shadal spell or trap card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. Okay, that effect is insane. You could just completely roll someone. Can you answer this question? There are decks that do multiple special summons in one turn, right? To win?
There are a lot of decks.
All right, this card's insane. That's all I needed to hear. That seems really good because if you just have this card, your opponent's win condition could just completely be nullified, and they're then forced to actually answer this. If they can't answer this, how do they win the game? And I guess even if this dies, depending on how great the spell/trap cards of the Shadals are, then you get another one back in your hand. That seems pretty great. It just seems like this is a very stacked card, unless it's really hard to get it fusion summoned, which maybe it is. So again, this is completely based on how hard it is to summon, but I would imagine it's not that brutal, and that effect is very, very good. It's almost like a tech card, but it's a little better because it's throughout multiple turns, and if your opponent can't answer it again, like you just win the game.
Yeah, this card is like absolutely broken.
What I'm understanding about YuGiOh is if there is a card that says cannot be destroyed and you limit what your opponent can do in a turn, broken.
Welcome to YuGiOh, baby. No one has any fun, and everyone is playing under floodgates. It's the greatest game of all time. Next card.
Flying Elephant, here we go. Once per opponent's turn, if this card would be destroyed by their card effect, it is not destroyed. Once per turn during their end phase, if that effect was applied this turn, apply the following effect. During your next turn, if this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent by a direct attack, you win the duel. So this card punishes you for trying to answer it. And then if you literally don't have something that kills it on the board, I would imagine you just lose the game, it looks like. They would get this effect next turn again, because it'd be your turn. So they would be able to stop another card effect. So you need 2 card effects in a singular turn to win the game, or to stop this card from just winning you the game outright. Wow, that's a really interesting card. That would be extremely frustrating in a game like Hearthstone. This card would probably be the most hated card of all time. This is almost a 1 card like win condition. And if your opponent just can't answer it the turn it's played, like you just kind of win. But I feel like this is a bait. Like no way this card wouldn't be banned if it was that good. Oh my God, this one's actually the hardest one you've given me, I think. I feel like it's bad though, because quite literally, how does your opponent not answer this? Sure, it negates one thing, but then your opponent probably has another way to answer it. And you're also basing this on your opponent has nothing on the board to actually defend. Yeah, it's probably bad. It's probably bad.
Yeah, this card in the sea of 10,000 plus is arguably one of the worst cards ever printed.
I didn't think it was one of the worst cards, but damn.
This card is literally just the definition of like a giant walking target that just says like kick me, and is like, and that sign is just taped to like a nuclear bomb. Like, I don't think anyone's going to walk into that trap.
I mean, sometimes, man, you just win a game. Sometimes it's probably very unlikely in a game like YuGiOh just because it's so fast paced, it seems. But like in this card in Hearthstone, for instance, sometimes if this was on the board and your opponent just didn't have an answer for it, yeah, this card's bad. What am I even saying? I'm trying to coat my way. I'm trying to coat my way for the Flying Elephant to actually be a reasonable card.
Trust me, bro. It's the buyout. It's the new meta. Next card.
Chaos Space. Send 1 light or dark monster from your hand to the graveyard. Okay, so does light or dark have like a significance about it, or is it just like the type it is?
It's their attribute. So you see how a Flying Elephant is like a wind and El Shadal Winda is like a dark? That's light/dark.
Send 1 light or dark monster from your hand to the graveyard. Add 1 light or dark monster that cannot be normal summon / set from your deck to your hand, with a level from 4 to 8 and with a different attribute than that monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard and target 1 of your banished light or dark monsters that cannot be normal summon / set. Place that monster on the bottom of your deck, then draw 1 card. You can only use each effective Chaos Space once per turn. Holy moly, what did I just read? So I don't, God, where do I even begin? Setting one light or dark monster from your hand to your graveyard seems like a good thing. And the idea is that you draw an extra card with specific requirements. You're gonna put this card in a deck where you can actually use that effect. So when it says you can banish this card from your graveyard, is it talking about the spell or the minion that you just added to your hand?
It's talking about the spell itself.
Okay, so that's pretty great, I would imagine. So you get to use the spell first, then banish it, and then target one of your banished light. Or yeah, so again, I think you'd probably use this card in a deck where you could, I mean, banishing your cards is probably a good thing. I don't know, I feel like this is good just because it's so much positive. It's so, like there's too many positive effects here. Why would this be bad? I mean, you're not really doing anything insane. Like you're not like special summoning a monster or, you know, winning the game from it. But it seems like in the correct deck, this is just a nice piece of the puzzle for you to actually win the game. So it's probably fine. I wouldn't say like broken or bad. It's probably somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, this card is like the definition of like in like middle of the road. It's a very solid card.
Let's go, dude. I'm killing it.
It's just very solid. Like you go +0 off it, you get a free search. It doesn't have a great spot in the current meta just because there isn't like a deck that can currently run it. Plus, like just getting 2 for 1 if this card gets negated like, is kind of stinky. But in decks that can play it, it's just solid. Like who would have guessed? Searching cards from your deck is good.
I think in Hearthstone this card would probably see play too. It's just like a good cycle. All right, oh, dude, I'm so pumped. Holy crap! This is the best video I've ever done for these. I'm killing it.
I would hope so on the 3rd episode. Next card.
The Tyrant Neptune. Cannot be special summoned. You can tribute summon this card by tributing one monster. This card gains the total original attack and defense of the monsters tributed for its tribute summon. When this card is tribute summoned, target one effect monster in the graveyard that was tributed for the tributed summon. So for the tribute summon, this card name becomes that target's name, and this card gains the target's effect. Okay, here's a question for you. Let's say I have a monster on the board, I use their effect, and then I use that card to summon this card. Can I reuse that effect the same turn, as long as it doesn't specifically say on the text that it can only be used once per turn?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is insane. Why is this? How is this bad? The logic behind this would be like, if I'm running a specific monster, why wouldn't I just run another of that specific monster? The only time this card is absolutely garbage is if like you can't attribute like a summon for this. But like most of the time, I would imagine if this is in your deck, you're gonna be playing this for another very powerful effect, like the Zodiac, dude. Insane. Like if I could just have that effect again, that would be insane. This card has to be good. No shot, it's not. I won't believe you even if you tell me it's not.
Yeah, this card is banned. That should just say enough.
Let's go. Yeah, like again, I think a lot of the time like the stats are so irrelevant because in Hearthstone there's a card called Faceless Manipulator. Remember that card?
Yeah.
Like that card is you copy another minion on the board. If you told me there was a card you can tribute a minion to get another one of those minions, like that's insane in Hearthstone. So in Yu-Gi-Oh this has to be even better because most of the effects are insane.
Yeah, this card has never been used for healthy reasons.
No,
bro, trust me, I have to tribute summon to make this card good. It's bad, totally. Yeah, this card was actually used in like an FTK. It was used on a first turn kill deck. What you would do is you would copy the effect of this card, and because this didn't have a hard once per turn on it, and because Tyrant Neptune was level 10, you would just deal 4,000 damage twice and kill them instantly, which was very fun and very interactive.
Pog. How long was it not banned for? Like a day?
Like 3 months.
Oh wow, that's horrific.
Yu-Gi-Oh ban list cycles are notoriously bad. Next card.
Oh my god, Trishula, something along those lines. Dragon of the Ice Barrier. When this card is synchro summoned, all right, what is synchro summoned?
When this card is just like summoned out of the extra deck properly.
You can banish up to one card each from your opponent's hand, field, and graveyard. This card in the hand is chosen at random. Oh. This is a very scary effect because this could actually just completely stop your opponent's win condition immediately. If they're doing some kind of graveyard deck and you just banish that card and they can't get it back, then they might lose. Randomly banishing a card from their hand is so spicy. It makes sense because obviously you can't see your opponent's hand. That'd be so stupid, but this could just sometimes just win you the game because you just got the right card, which is probably not great game design, but... These effects seem so powerful. So in Hearthstone, would I play a card that banishes a card from my opponent's hand so they can't get it back from their board? And we don't really have a graveyard, but I mean, theoretically we kind of do. This card would probably see play in Hearthstone depending on the mana cost. So I imagine this card sees play in YuGiOh, if not like one of the better cards that you show me here. I don't know how hard it is to actually summon this, but if it's not hard to summon again, this card's probably insane.
Yeah, unfortunately, this card kind of sucks.
When you say that, I could just hear it in your voice from the first word. I'm about to get absolutely rolled. Please explain to me why.
So this card's kind of bad for three specific reasons. The first one is it's got a really weird level line. So you know, like the stars.
Yes.
That's like it's level 9, and that's like a really awkward number for even like decks right now to even try to go into. Secondly, if you're making this going first, like sure, you loop a card out of their hand. If you're porting 3 monsters to just basically like rip a card out, that's not very impactful when you really think about it. When you could just be doing like, you could be setting up like 50 negates, like drawing 80 cards instead. And the third reason is that they're just like way better options. This card used to be really good, maybe back in like 2014, when there just wasn't any other option that existed. So people just treated this card like the bee's knees of like Synchro 9s. But unfortunately, way too weird to summon, and yeah, just not impactful enough, unfortunately. Weirdly enough.
But I guess, yeah, you're right. If it's too hard to summon, then it's probably bad.
Next card on the list.
Boral Sword Dragon. Oh my dude. Trying to make me read an essay here again. So this is a Link again. What was Link? I remember this card from a previous episode, or this type of card at least.
Just basically imagine it as like a Synchro or an Xyz that has like a much more lenient summoning condition. Like this only needs 3+ effect monsters.
So this cannot be destroyed by battle, so which means minion or monster combat can't kill this. Once per turn, quick effect, you could target 1 attack position monster, change it to defense position. Also, this card can make a second attack during each battle phase this turn. Your opponent cannot activate cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. Once per turn, when this card declares an attack on a face-up monster, you can activate this effect until the end of this turn. This card gains attack equal to half that monster's current attack. And if it does, that monster's current attack is half. What the hell? Okay, so this card's like the monster combat master. How good is that in YuGiOh though? Like you have a very powerful dude, but you're banking on minion combat here. So if your opponent's deck doesn't use minions, this card is absolutely useless for the majority of it. I mean, it's still 3,000 attack points, which is fine. And you said it's pretty lenient to summon. So depending on how early you can get this out, could be a very, very powerful effect if the deck you're going against is monster based. But I don't know, based on previous cards that you showed me, it doesn't feel like a lot of people really go for monster combat here. Yeah, again, I don't think that's that bad. Like you could change a monster to defense, but it doesn't feel like that's necessarily the worst thing in the world. I don't know, this card, I feel like, I mean, this is a lot of text. Usually cards with a lot of text are good, but I feel like this is the type of effect in YuGiOh that probably doesn't see a ton of play just because there's probably better win conditions for you. Please tell me I'm right.
This card is arguably one of the most polarizing cards to have ever come out in the game.
Okay, before you continue, is it completely based on the fact that if your opponent plays a specific deck or not? Like, is it polarizing because if your opponent plays a monster deck, this is like the most broken card of all time, and then if they don't, this card's useless? Is that what it's on?
Oh no, this card could just be slapped into anything and it's broken.
Okay. Well, I thought I was going to be smart there for a second. Just kidding.
Yeah, so turns out just having a 3,000 beater that's always accessible in your extra deck, that's extremely easy to make and can attack twice, basically is just a recipe for disaster. If there was like the joke where like YuGiOh games only take like 2 turns to like complete, this is like 95% of the reason why, because of just like a super generic one-turn kill option that just exists for combat. If you're able to just basically stick any 2,000 damage monster onto the board, you basically just go Boral Sword swing, you poke with that other monster, and then Boral Sword changes that other monster to defense mode, and then congratulations, you have 8,000 damage and your opponent is dead if they don't have a blocker.
Interesting. So you can target your own minions, I guess, to make this like a win condition.
Yeah, exactly. You could just give yourself a second attack. Just give yourself more damage. Yeah. What a great card design, Konami.
I think they thought the same thing as me. It's like, yeah, if your opponent doesn't play monsters, then it's absolutely trash. So it's completely fine. But then, yeah, if you could target your own minions, then it's pretty good.
Last card on the list.
Wall of Revealing Lathe. So this is another trap card. Activate by paying any multiple of 1,000 life points. Monsters your opponent controls cannot attack if their attack is less or equal to the amount you paid. All right, right off the gate, I feel like this is incredibly weak. I feel like most of the time I'm not concerned about my opponents. I mean, I just actually saw a card where like their monster's attack field like it was really relevant, but for the most part here, it feels like monsters swinging at your face is not what you're really worried about. Now, this is really good. Again, if you're going against Mr. Boral Sword here, this might be the difference of you winning or losing the game, but on average, probably not super good, I would think. Like, why would I want to do this when I can just kill my opponent's monster, right? So bad.
Yep, this card is miserable. What's funny is that this card was technically, quote unquote, in very large air quotations, broken for like a very specific period of time. Because guess what? You could play this in an FTK deck.
Oh, I'm going to guess this. There's a card that does damage based on how much life points you've lost this turn.
You're like not too far off the money, actually. If there was a big enough difference between you and your opponent's life points, there was a card called Life Equalizer that set both of your life points to 3,000, and then you would just kill them like a stupid burn spell. So that was very fun and interactive. So this was just like a great way to just like sink yourself for like 7,000. You get like the last 1,000 from somewhere. You set yourself both. You set both of you guys super low, and then you just kill them with like Magical Explosion, which just dealt like a stupid amount of burn damage.
Dude, I'm trying to. You just said the life equalizer thing. I was thinking if that's a Hearthstone card, how stupid would that be in the game?
You set like both heroes to like 10 life. Yeah.
Well, it would just be so stupid because some classes that like have no way to kill you you could just go against the deck, let them get you super low, and then you just counter lethal them. Overall, though, this I felt like I was getting pretty better. I think this is the moment I was waiting for to actually try out YuGiOh. So I guess I'm prepared. Maybe I'll build a deck. We'll see.